Alright, now it's time to start working on our jumping. Well, to create simple jumping, it's not really hard, but to create it properly, well, it's not that easy, but don't worry, I will explain you obviously everything. Now, let's go ahead and open our player movement script. And to have some jumping, we need to have some variable for our jumping. And let's create variable. Let's create public float. And let's call this one, for example, jump force. And this jump force will be like our move speed. It will control our jump power, basically. Now, let's scroll down. And, well, after our movement, we will create simple logic that if we are touching some button, we want to jump. And basically, Unity's input manager, if we go in input project settings, it has already set up this jump button, which is set to spacebar. Well, we can obviously change the spacebar to any key that you like, but I will leave it as it is on the spacebar. It's okay. And well, basically to access this button, we can say if input dot get button down, and well, in brackets and quotation marks, we should say jump, but again, it's case sensitive, so type it correctly. And well, when we are touching our spacebar, what we need to do? Well, we want our movement.y, because a y-axis is controlling our jumping, as you remember, should be equal to our jump force. That's pretty much it. That's simple to create a jumping mechanic, but well, there will be complications, of course, but I will show you them. So let's save the script, Control and S or Command and S if you are on Mac to save your script. Let's go down, let's select player. If we scroll down, we have this jump force, which is 0 right now. Let's make jump force to be 8, for example, and let's hit play. And let's test what will happen when we basically touch the space bar. Well, our player moves a little bit, but he's not falling down right now. Well, that happens because right now our game does not have any kind of gravity inside. So it means that we should create some gravity manually with the help of our code. So let's open our script. We will need one more variable, basically for our to control how strong is the gravitation. So we can say public float. Let's call this gravity mod or gravity modifier or something like that. I will call it gravity mode. Now let's scroll down, and well, we need to add one more thing here after our jumping logic. So here we can say that movement.y plus equals. Now, what is this plus equals at all? Well, let me first write this line and I will explain you. And to have some gravity, we can use physics dot gravity. We want to have gravity only on y direction, so we can say physics dot gravity dot y, and we can multiply it to our gravity mod to know how strong will be our gravity. We will also multiply it to time.delta time for the smooth movement. And that's pretty much it, how we can have very simple gravity inside our game. Now, plus equals means that we are just taking our movement on the y, so we are taking our jump force and we are adding some physics and some gravitation to it. Now, let's save the script, so Control and S. And by the way, basically, if you still don't understand what is this plus equals, we could just simply say movement.y equals movements.y plus, and then this line, well, not here, but there, and it would be same basically, but it's just a longer version, so we can use plus equals for the shorter version. Anyway, let's save the script and let's now see what will happen, because right now our jumping will not still will not be perfect. So let's select player, let's scroll down. Well, we have this gravity mode. Let's make it 1. And let's press play and let's test. Well, note when our game starts, our player falls down immediately because uh, before our gravity, our player was in the air. So let's try to jump. Well, indeed, we are jumping a little bit and we are falling down. So let's fall from this edge. And indeed, we are falling down very, very slowly right now. And that's not really something what we need to do. Well, you might think that, yeah, we can just modify our jump force, make it bigger, or gravity mode, make it smaller, or something like that. But those methods will not work fine. Well, the problem is that problem is in our movements. We are calculating this movement with the help, and we are considering the player's inputs. And what it does basically, it does its job, but also what it does, it makes our movement.y, so our movement on the y direction, to be resetted all the time, or it just ignores it all the time. And to avoid all of these problems, what we can do, we can basically store information about our movements on y before we do this movement. So before we do these movements right here, we will create one container, one float variable, and let's call this one vertical, vertical velocity. And well, it should be equal to our movement.y. So now we are storing these movements. After that, we will apply this movement logic right here. And after our movement, we will restore our original movement, which is now set to this variable. So we can say here movement.y equals vertical velocity. This way, we are just skipping this movement for the for the y axis basically. So we are storing the information about our movement.y before we do this movement, and after this movement is done, we are free to basically restore our original movement. And this way, our original gravity won't be affected by this movement and by the any kind of input that we might get. Also, problem that we will have now is that, movements, if we just leave our code like this, our movement on the y direction will calculate forever, even when we are on the ground. We want our movement to change on the y to change only when we are jumping, so only when we are in the air. But if we are chilling on the ground, just staying there or walking on the ground, doesn't matter. If we are on the ground, we don't want to be affected by anything, by any kind of y direction or something like that. And to avoid that, we should tell Unity that, yeah, if we are on the ground, stop calculating our movement.y. But question is how to do that, how to tell Unity difference between when we are in the ground and when we are not in the ground. Well, luckily we are using the character controller, and character controller has already built in some sensor check, we can call it like this. And to use that, we can say if char controller dot, here we can say is grounded. And as you see, it pops up automatically. So it means that if we are on the ground, our movement.y should be equal to 0f, as I said, so that it won't calculate anything while we are on the ground. It will only calculate our movements on y-axis when we are jumping. So that's pretty much it, how we can create jumping mechanic for our player. And now if we save this script, everything will be fine. So let's find our player. Well, we have this gravity mode to be 1. So let's play test first of all, and we will change those numbers later. And now indeed we can jump and fall down, which looks much better than it was before. Right now we are just falling much faster. Well, If we want to have much snappier movement, we can increase the gravity mode, for example, 2.5 or 2 maybe. Let's try 2. Okay, we will work on them later. By the way, one thing, if you do some changes while you are in play mode, when you stop playing, those numbers won't be saved, by the way. So, for example, I'm in the play mode and I change the gravity mode to be 2, but when I stop playing, it goes back to 1. So we should make changes, final changes, while we are not in the play mode. So I stopped playing and I changed gravity mode to be 2 for now. So let's save this scene, and that's pretty much it.